1670, 877-867-1670. You can hit us up if you choose to do so. Again, 877-867-1670. Yeah, when Rodgers said that last week and said, now what are you going to say? It was like, wow, it just seemed like it was almost foreshadowing a rather bad performance at Lambeau Field, and that's what you got, unfortunately, here tonight. So if you want to find us, please feel free to go ahead and do so. This Pack Fanatic says, I don't want to hear one damn person say that Rodgers didn't have enough weapons in his career to get to a second Super Bowl. The front office blew it. He had plenty of weapons the whole career, not mostly this year, but ultimately, like Favre, didn't play well in playoff games or even tonight. Beastmaster said, it's not what somebody's going to say, it's what they do. And Rodgers' unwillingness continuously he said unwillingness to change proves that if you watch what he does specifically this year, you start to see that he's uncoachable. His way doesn't work anymore, and his time is now over. Now, I'm not going to say that because I still think he gives you the best chance to win, but I think overall, Rodgers certainly had his issues, no doubt about it. He just looked off. I know that every time something goes bad, suddenly the thumb is bad and things are hurting, and I'm not going to doubt that because I don't know if a guy is or isn't hurting. But it was fine. There was no mention of it all week. I know he took a little bit of a shot in this game. I had said last week, though, and I noted it if you were listening to the program, I said it looked like he got hit in just before the first half ended last week in that thumb, and he was holding it. He was kind of wincing on the sideline. So now we'll see how bad it is. Bring in the rest of the network, shall we?
This is the Green and Gold postgame show.
There you go. That's our buddy Connor running the program back at our flagship station out in Madison. Welcome into everybody listening to us all throughout the entire network, throughout the great state of Wisconsin, well beyond the borders as well. Packers lose to the Detroit Lions, and the Lions. I said also that the Lions were not. Everybody thought that if the Lions didn't have anything to play for, they were going to lay down, and I knew they weren't. Dan Campbell had them fired up. Their mantra was to get a winning season, first time since 2017, and to knock off the Green Bay Packers. You heard what some of their players talked about when they said Aaron Rodgers doesn't respect them, didn't respect them. And they were coming. They played tenacious football. Their special teams came in hitting. They set the tone early by kicking off to the Packers, and they got downfield in a hurry. Didn't allow Keyshawn Nixon any kind of a return tonight. I mean, they beat up physically the Green Bay Packers. 20-16, the final, and the Packers season comes to an end. Everything was right there for them. All they had to do was win. All the pieces fell into place through over the last 3-4 weeks, and the Packers just weren't able to take advantage of it. Jason says, what do you think Rodgers does now? He would not give his jersey to a player that asked for it after the game, said he wanted to hang on to it. I don't know. I think we're going to go through the same song and dance. I don't think that he's not coming back. I think he is. He's got 50-plus million reasons to come back. So I think he's going to come back next year. Now, I think it's going to be a little bit of a different offseason because, last year you lost in the playoffs after everything's set up for you. Now you don't have any excuses. I mean, this loss, while you can talk about maybe the defense or Quay Walker's untimely ejection, you can talk about Aaron Jones and the fumble, and we've seen this now from Aaron Jones in big games. When Aaron Jones you need it the most, he's going to cough the ball up. But it was Aaron Rodgers again, throwing the ball low, not hitting guys in the hands, not seeing open receivers on a consistent basis, not seeing the safety over the top and throwing a pick. And ultimately it came back, but didn't see the safety over the top, locked on one guy yet again, throwing to Aaron Jones. Christian Watson streaking down the sideline. Nobody's looking at him. He's wide open with nobody around him, but Rodgers just kept his eyes in one particular place. Remember when it used to be if you had a safety over the top and it was only one, Aaron Rodgers would just eat you up, whether it was with James Jones or Jordy Nelson or Greg Jennings, whomever, and not anymore. He's become a very simple, locked-on-minded, habitual quarterback, and all this about I don't need off-season work, I don't need to do anything. It's no, you do. And it's kind of like if you're gonna not that you have to go back and reinvent the wheel, but you got to get back and reinvent yourself a little bit, and remember the things you do well and accentuate the things and change the things that you do poorly. And there's some things that Aaron Rodgers did on a consistent basis this year, and he did them poorly, to be honest with you. 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, go ahead. Charles says no creativity in the play calling. The offensive line stunk, which is a whole other discussion. And that was remind me of the Jets game where the offensive line just got their ass handed to them. They got manhandled all night. They were getting beat on 3-man rush and 4-man rush pretty consistently. And then when they did finally start figuring a few things out, that's when Dan Campbell and company, and they brought the blitz, and they were getting home. Rodgers was under pressure under a 3-man rush, which is ridiculous. Josh Nijman, obviously trying to come back from injury and such, and just didn't seem to have it. And he was Hutchinson went against Josh Nijman on 4 different occasions, and on 2 of them he got home and got a sack. That's how bad Josh Nijman was. And eventually he was replaced by Zach Tom at the end, really kind of midway through the second quarter of that game. Just a really poor night tonight all the way around for the Green Bay Packers in many different areas. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I don't think you make knee-jerk decisions right now. I don't think you start firing people. I don't think you start trading people. I don't think you start cutting people. I think what you do is you sit back and you say, okay, what was good about this season? What happened? Quay Walker, other than the fact that he's got a temper and clearly it's gotten the best of him, I thought he showed himself pretty well this year, and he got better over these last 4 or 5 games. Devontae Wyatt showed himself as a guy that when he gets a move and gets some push and he gets a guy that's as strong as him up against him, he can bull rush people. He can knock people over. I think you got to find there. I still think you need to win in the trenches. I still think the offensive line and the defensive lines need to be bolstered. I think you need to find yourself a true tight end. You can't, no longer can you just run Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis out there and say we got great tight ends, because you don't. Your tight ends stink. Your wide receiving core is maybe mediocre. You've got a decent number 1 in Watson, but you don't utilize him nearly enough to make him a threat. And I said that the other day, and I said they don't have a downfield threat, and people crucified me. And it doesn't mean that he's not there. It just means that they don't use him. And when they do, it's overthrown, it's underthrown. He sees them too late. There was teams like tonight, they didn't even, they're hitting 1-on-1 pretty much most of the night. There was no double team and a safety over the top. They didn't respect it. And they didn't play for that. They played for a lot of the checkdowns, which is what Aaron Rodgers does. That's what they played for. They played tough at the line of scrimmage. And I don't know what the play calling was with all the end arounds, with forcing the ball tonight to Allen Lazard like he's some kind of a difference maker. Allen Lazard is nothing more than maybe a number 3 wide receiver and a guy at best. And yet they kept forcing the ball to him. I don't know why. He had the touchdown catch, don't get me wrong, but I have no idea why they kept doing that. So, there's so many things to this, so many layers of this onion that you got to take a look at. But Packers fall today and get knocked off by the Detroit Lions, 20-16 at Lambeau Field, and their season unfortunately comes to an end. And if you want to chime in, feel free to go ahead and do so. 877-867-1670. Let's go to Greg, listening to us in Waukesha. Greg, how you doing today, man? What's going on? Greg, you there?
So
yeah, go ahead.
Pitchers and catchers report in how many days? And bring on the Jordan Love era. That's what I have to say. You know, Bill, it really started bothering me when Aaron Rodgers wouldn't admit to anyone about the broken thumb. And I just found that to be a little bit atrocious. And I know the press is the press, and they're going to ask him what they will, but it just really started to bother me when that happened, because it was obvious that something was wrong this year. So yeah, I give credit to the Lions. The Lions played a good game. I also think that there needs to be some changes to. I hope Keyshawn Nixon comes back. And
you got to sign him back. Yeah,
you've got to sign him back. But I just think there needs to be a change at quarterback. I just do. Rodgers is going to come back, so that's not going to happen. So I don't.
Rodgers is going to come back. You just need to fix some of the problems that are ailing you right now. Greg, pleasure as always, but I appreciate it. When you talk about Rodgers, though, think about this: they had the 4th and 1 call, which was the Chill Alaska, which was an absolutely dumb call. I have no idea why you would make that call. Again, forcing the ball at Allen Lazard. You get the ball on the interception down deep in Detroit territory. You end up taking it down inside. It's like 1st and goal. And again, shotgun, empty backfield. You can't do anything with it. It's garbage calls. Aaron Jones gets the fumble. Rodgers takes a crucial delay of game penalty. He takes the crucial sack down inside the red zone. And then you get the penalty also on that field goal that gives them yardage, moving them forward. It was just a really sloppy game tonight, but the majority of the ineptitude was all on the Packers offense tonight. It was all there. This one's from Thomas, who says, say what you want. It's time to move on for Rodgers. Doesn't see the field. He's not accurate anymore. He is gone. Ty says he's dropped off the table. I've never seen a quarterback drop away this fast. Have you seen Russell Wilson? Just throwing it out there, in case you haven't noticed that. Southern Dandy says, oh, by the way, his new name is LaFleur. Jim says, tell me if I'm wrong. Since LaFleur has been the coach, the Packers look like they are not ready to play in the most meaningful games. I'll stop you there. Yes, I agree with you. You and I are 100% in agreement on that. They look scared, and when they take a punch in the face, they've done this throughout Matt LaFleur's career in big games when they face controversy, when they have a fumble, go back to the Tampa game. Aaron Jones got hit, he fumbled, went out of the game. They look scared and dead. Last year, you got Mercedes Lewis, hit, fumble, dead, out of the game. Offensive line, they finally got it all back together, and they were getting their butt handed to them. And LaFleur refused to make a change. It was like he was a deer in the headlights, would not make a change. Tonight, you're running all these end arounds. Your fourth down play was terrible. Your delay of game penalties for getting the play in late was terrible. Your quarterback is yelling at guys. He had a terrible throw. Just threw it up to throw it up. And then he's yelling at guys. I understand you got to, as a wide receiver, you got to come back and get it. But when the guy's blocking you downfield and you don't have a way to actually get back, you may want to look at the quarterback and say, you underthrew that ball by quite a bit, and I couldn't quite get back to get it. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible performance tonight for a team that, and I don't know if you noticed this, but tonight when they were going to do the moment of applause for DeMar Hamlin, when the teams came out, the whole crowd, I mean, the stadium was just deafening. And in the press box, it's kind of like a church. You know, we're inside the glass. You don't hear a lot. You can hear a little bit of a roar of the crowd. But when the chant of Go Pack Go started, it was loud. The kickoff was loud. The first couple of series was loud. The field goal was loud. And after that, it's like the offense and that team just sucked the life out of its own fans. It was terrible. It was a terrible performance. And you know, like I said, I don't sit here and blame the defense. Defense gave up 20 points. You know, they gave up 20 points, had some stupid penalties. But I said, if you score 20 points and you lose, you don't deserve to win. Same thing as last year. You know, they lost by, was it 13? 13-7 or 13-6? They couldn't do anything. The offense sucks. Rodgers this year sucked. Period. End of story. And all this arrogance and all this sarcasm and this manifestation, and I'm on this different level and I'm on this different plane, it's all an excuse because you stink. Either you've dropped off or you've done something different, and you believe you don't have to perform anymore, you don't have to practice anymore, you don't have to get with guys anymore, you don't have to have relationships anymore. Whatever it is, the bottom line is, don't tell everybody what are you going to say now, because right now your ass is sitting at home. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You want to find us, go ahead and do so. Let's go to Peter listening to us in Toledo, Ohio. Peter, welcome to the program, man. What's going on? Peter.
Hey, Bill.
Oh, okay. Is this Rebecca?
Oh, yeah, this is Rebecca.
Okay, let's go to Rebecca.
Sorry, yeah. I just want to reiterate what you've been saying about LaFleur. He folds in the big games. It's very evident. His whole team takes on his persona. And I'll tell you, if that was Mike Holmgren tonight when Quay Walker did that for the second time, he would have had a hold of the space mask. He would be pointing at his head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would have been doing a little yanking and saying, "You can't tell me what to do. You can't go and rip other people because of your own ineptitude."
Yeah, and it's like the first time you can see it happen to Quay, but something did not get conveyed to that kid for it to happen the second time.
Right.
And because LaFleur just kind of blows things off. He's kind of soft. I'm kind of tired of him.
Yep. The milquetoast attitude and the fear of Aaron Rodgers is becoming quite evident. Rebecca, appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Rebecca out in Madison joining us. Let's go to let's go to Mike listening to us in Whitewater. Mike, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Pretty sunken out there, Bill. It, like you said, hitting a few of your points. You got those morons with the, where have you ever seen a guy walk up and kick the ball
I know, right?
and then you get a field goal out of it. And what it might have been, wasn't it the same way that our kicker, it would have been like a 48-yarder, wouldn't it, instead of a chip shot?
Right. Yeah, it would have been right on the edge. And kicking into the south end zone tonight really wasn't easy for either kicker, watching them warm up. Both guys were getting it just beyond 50 maybe. But I think they were, if you had to tell them to kick it 10 times beyond 50 to 53 yards, they probably would have went 5 for 5 or 5 out of 10 because they just weren't getting the job done consistently.
And also, like you said, Bill, this was, Rodgers, he's throwing it up, and it's like a gift. Either get me a penalty or my guy's going to go get it.
Right.
But, he missed Jones in the end zone if he throws it far enough on one play. Or, like you said, they're throwing at the feet of the receivers after they missed Jones at one time. And instead of going for the first down, they went for it, but he threw it at Dobbs' feet to get the first down. And then again, throw the ball when you're down there inside the 5-yard line, and you got to settle for a field goal again.
Right. No, I agree.
And then like you said, and our boy getting thrown out of the game. I mean, how do you push somebody that ain't a player back?
Yeah, that's twice that he's
when
pushed,
he looked right at him.
That's twice he's pushed, personnel on the field rather than gotten into it with a player or somebody actually wearing the pad. I mean, you just can't lose your cool. You can't do that. No matter what anybody says to you, you can't do it. The most you got to do is turn around and look for an official and say, "Did you see that or hear that?" and see what the official says. But that's about it.
Well, and then how about the pass and end around for the first down by the Lions? We don't have any creativity.
No.
With LaFleur. But it's the same thing.
Yeah, you know what though, Mike, and I appreciate it as always, buddy. The one thing I said coming into this game was that I didn't know what would be more dangerous. Would be the Lions fighting for a playoff spot or the Lions not? Because the Lions not, they pulled out the flea flicker to throw the touchdown pass that ended up getting the hands to the face or the holding call. So they pulled that out, and we thought they'd use something like that. And then they used another trick play to pick up a first down in a very crucial moment. And, like I said, kudos to Dan Campbell. He said he was going to come in. They felt disrespected by Aaron Rodgers. They stated that specifically by Aaron Rodgers because of some of the things that he had said. They felt disrespected by him. They felt like they're a team on the rise, a good group of guys that they've gotten together. And in addition to that, they were going for the first time since 2017 to end up over 500 with respectability. I mean, all of that fell into place for Dan Campbell tonight and the Detroit Lions. And so regardless of whether they were fighting for a playoff spot tonight, they were up for this game. They were up more. I'll say this. The Packers defensively brought spirit. The Packers special teams bring spirit. And the Packers offensively, they look the way that kind of their leader looks, if that makes sense. And they just very slow, very methodical, very plodding, very, they always want to be very cerebral in what they do. There's not a lot of energy there. It looked that way tonight, unfortunately. 877-867-1670. A whole lot of people over on the Bud Light live stream, and thanks to everybody watching us there. We are brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Stay tuned. We're going to come back. Got a lot more to get to. Packers knocked off. Their season comes to an end. Could this be the end? We'll talk more about it when we come back right after this.
This is the Green and Gold postgame show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. It's the Green and Gold postgame show. We are broadcasting live. We're at the Green Bay house tonight, hanging out for our final broadcast here in Green Bay. And I want to say thanks to everybody here for hanging out with us as well. Got a lot of people that are on the Bud Light live stream, as a matter of fact. So thanks to everybody that's over there. This is from Point Dave, who says the Green Bay Packers have been celebrated off their field now far too many times. At some point, you have to start thinking about Matt LaFleur in his job. Which, you know what, there's talk about Mike Vrabel losing his job, and Vrabel's had continued success. Now, I don't think he will. Obviously, when you lose your quarterback, that makes a huge difference. We saw with Mike McCarthy and company. But when you're on pace to put yourself into the postseason, and your quarterback goes down, you've got one of the better running backs in the league, and all of a sudden you find yourself, on the outside looking in just because you lose a quarterback. And not only do you lose, but you lose, 5, 6, 7 straight. Yeah, I mean, there's some people in the what have you done for me world lately that could say Vrabel could lose his team. So Vrabel's going to lose his team, a guy that is extremely fundamentally sound as a head coach. I mean, he'll find a job almost immediately, I'm sure, but they're talking about the possibility of him losing a job. So I would think after this season that Matt LaFleur, you get the hall pass, I think, this year. I think this year is the hall pass. But next year, I'll tell you this. I go back to when Matt LaFleur first came into Green Bay, and he really kind of, while he built the relationship with Aaron Rodgers, there were times where Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to get away with things, and he kind of laid the law down to everybody, not just Rodgers, but everybody. This year, he kind of wilted. He was the soft flower. And it was as if he was being dictated to rather than dictating to the team. And a lot of the play calling and such was just, and Nathaniel Hackett, Luke Getsy, losing those two guys as well. When you lose your brain trust, it's tough to build all of a sudden relationships where maybe they weren't before in the same style. So do I think that Matt LaFleur is going to lose his job? No, but I think he lost his hall pass. I think this game and this season kind of cost him his hall pass, if that makes sense. 877-867-1670. Let's go to Gerard. Gerard, listening to us up in the New York, New Jersey area, as always, up in Delaware. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Bill. Again, Detroit dictated. On punch formation, Green Bay had to keep their defense in because they didn't know what they were going to do. Okay, in every phase of the game, Detroit dictated that game. I don't get this with, look, Rodgers is old. He's tremendous Hall of Fame, great player, everything, whatever. He hasn't won in 12 years. I keep hearing, and with all respect to you, Bill, he gives us the best chance to win. He hasn't won, though. He hasn't in 12 years. He's blown last year, and with all.
Go ahead, Gerard. Did we lose
Okay,
him?
you know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. The last couple of years, the last 3 years now, you can look at the play of Aaron Rodgers, and it's not solely Aaron Rodgers, but you can look at the play of Aaron Rodgers, and you can say, where was the leader? Where was the guy that looked so good and so sharp in those previous, playoff appearances to get that team there? And instead, when you needed him the most, he wilted away the fastest and went down with no fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he's over this. And then after the game, I don't want to get into that. Here's what I want to get into. There has to be major changes. Now, Lewis, I kept tweeting this out. Where was Lewis? Again, Detroit dictated. Lewis didn't come back into the fourth quarter, to the middle of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Where was he? Where was his blocking when Tom and Nyman were getting it handed to him? Where was he on that side? He wasn't in the game.
Yeah, they were
on the Britannia in the passing thing. Look, again, Detroit dictated on that thing. So look, as far as I'm concerned, this is not a knee jerk. I've seen every Packers great quarterback go into the sunset. Okay, every single one of them. Now I'm going to tell you, I would move them. I would if the price, if you get what you want, you get 2 2s, 2 1s, and 2 2s. He's done. Okay. Now look. Think about this, all Packer fans. I said before this season I would have traded him to Denver. I would have got that back. Think of the package you would have got for Denver. So in my opinion, Bill, with all due respect to everybody, I don't want to hear that. I've heard all these guys say he gives you the best chance to win. He hasn't won. It's like a 40-year-old Muhammad Ali. Well, why is he in the ring? Well, he gives you the best chance to become heavyweight.
No, I understand that. Yeah, no, I get it, Gerard. Appreciate the phone call. I get that. My call is not necessarily that he's winning, but if I had to take the 2 in big game moments, until now I say until he proves me wrong, but Rodgers would be the guy I would take. I do have to start questioning after what we saw this year out of Aaron Rodgers, who's having an average year to a below average year for an Aaron Rodgers year, but an average year midway kind of in the rest of the NFL. So he's still better than quite a few of the quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's my point was if Aaron Rodgers suddenly becomes Aaron Rodgers in some way, shape, or form, and who knows how bad the thumb is, I don't know. Maybe that was the sole reason that he was so off all season long, and it heals up and he comes back next year and he starts winging it and looking like the old Aaron Rodgers. But the last time he was doubted, the last time people said, he's done, he's washed up, he's starting to fall off the cliff, he came back and won back-to-back MVPs. I'm not ready to throw him to the curb, but I also think that I got to look him in the eye and say things have to change. And if there's an unwillingness to change, then yeah, I'd move him. I wouldn't have a problem doing it. But you got to remember, when you do, that's going to bring on a whole bunch of monetary ramifications that you're going to have to take at least 1 season or 2. And as a fan, you're going to have to be willing to just kind of watch it culminate that way. You got to eat that because there's going to be a lot of money in many different players that you're going to have to make. Because I can guarantee it, because after that, if you move Rodgers, you're not going to keep Bakhtiari. I know good left tackles are hard to find, but Zach Tom is a hell of a left tackle. And you might as well go ahead and start grooming him. And whether or not Josh Nyman's going to be a good right tackle, you have to wait and see. You're probably going to have to go to the draft again and or free agency there to get another right tackle because Josh Nyman got it handed to him by Aiden. Hutchinson tonight just ate him up. 4 plays against Josh Nyman, 2 of which were sacks, statistically speaking. So you're going to have to make some decisions. If you decide to trade him, that's it. That's it. You got to start moving some things. Now, it's not going to be a mass rebuild. It's not going to happen. But what's going to happen will be at least a year of down where you're kind of hoping to see what you got, and some of the young guys play for jobs, play for contracts and such, and you start to really kind of, because then you're going to think about Adrian Amos, you're going to think about what you're going to do with Savage, you're going to think about what you're going to do eventually with Kenny Clark, because his contract, although he just signed, he's going to have a couple more years in that. And then do you want to move him? Do you want to give him another one? Do you want to move that spot? Do you start drafting for that? You know what I mean? And then obviously you gotta look at a whole other slew of stuff. You know, Mason Crosby. I mean, this was probably Mason Crosby's last game. You know, Mason Crosby. I mean, you know, what a way to go out. Something we talked about, could Rodgers or couldn't Rodgers? But one of the other things nobody talked about, sadly, was this Mason Crosby's last game. Stay tuned. We got another hour yet to go. We're going to hear from LaFleur. We're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers. We're going to hear from Mike Clemens, and you still stay right where you're at. We'll be back right after this.
Ho, ho, ho! I need a window.
Baby, it's cold outside.
So where do I go? Ho, ho.
Come on, Santa. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Now is the time to replace your leaky windows and doors. You and Mrs. Claus can get your new windows while putting no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. Unwrap this gift now, but pay for it 2 years later.
More jingle that stays in my pocket.
That's right, Santa. Plus, our elves install year-round and in as little as 1 day. Pella offers lines in luxurious wood to fiberglass and vinyl.
Why not make a New Year's resolution today?
That's the spirit, Santa.
Hella no, pay later.
Absolutely. Put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 24 months. But you have to hurry. Offer ends December 31st. Schedule your free consultation today at PellaWI.com.
For details.
United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and America's largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal law enforcement agencies through our many varied programs, including free safety equipment donations, free officer survival training, cash donations, and condolence letters to the family of law enforcement officers who perish in the line of duty. USDSA also offers college scholarships for the dependent children of law enforcement, along with the Citizen Awareness Program and thank you cards to law enforcement. These are just some of the ways United States Deputy Sheriff's Association assists America's law enforcement and the citizens they serve. For more information about United States Deputy Sheriff's Association or to see how you can help, visit www.usdeputy.org. United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, taking training to the next level because lives are on the line.
Blue 58, go! Green 18. Green 19, touch! This is the Green and Gold postgame show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
They had to... Welcome back to the program, and I wish I had better news, but the Green Bay Packers, their season comes to an end. They ended up getting knocked off. They get beat by the Detroit Lions. Lions' first season since 2017 that they ended up with a winning season, so not a bad way for them. And after their year on Hard Knocks and becoming fan favorites of many, they kind of felt it this year, and they're a team on the uptick after last year being 8-8 as well. But when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, there's a lot of questions. One of the disappointing things tonight was there was a lot of talk about will he or will he not come back in Aaron Rodgers, and he needs to take time. One of the guys that didn't get a chance to really kind of absorb the moment and get some of the accolades was Mason Crosby. We probably have seen Mason Crosby's last game at Lambeau Field, last game of his career. And that's one thing to kind of keep in the back of your mind. But this could all be the end of an era for the back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks. this could be the end of the era for consistent winning and consistently being picked to win, and we'll see. But I'll tell you this. We were just talking about cold weather. Rodgers doesn't look like a cold weather quarterback anymore. Go back to the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple of years ago. He looked bad. Go back to last year in that snow globe game. He looked bad. And then obviously tonight in a must-win situation in January, he looked bad. And here's the other thing, and I know some people are saying you can't come down on Rodgers. Yes, I can, because Rodgers took a lot of adulation and a lot of the praise for many years in his career and never backed away from it. So you cannot sit here and say, well, it's not all on him. I'm not saying that, but he's the leader of the team. Not only is he the leader, he's a quarterback. He has to take more. He just has to. And when you come out looking lethargic, when you come out and you don't look fired up, this is a big game, and it didn't look like he was there. The monotone of discussion, and we've all seen some things in commentary outside of the building, and 4-8 and 5-8 and 6-8, and nobody's worried about the Packers and blah blah blah. And what are you going to say now? Well, what we're going to say is you stunk, and you're one of the big reasons that your team is sitting home. That's what we're going to say. So when you point out the ineptitude of people that tend to doubt you, and then you can't live up to that, that's on you. That's not on anybody else. Those are exactly his words from last week against coming out of the Minnesota Vikings game. 877-867-1670. You want to find us, do it. 877-867-1670. Phone lines are wide open. We'll get to you as soon as we can. Got a lot of emails coming in. Got a lot of people on the Bud Light live stream we want to get to. Isaac saying, all I'm saying is let's really get some players keep failing to, he says the Packers keep failing to add specific players that he would like to see come in. Heightened Zone says RELAX. No, that's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Always a lack of passion. Blame the head coach. Tasman says, have you ever seen Matt LaFleur? Oh, I've seen Matt LaFleur, and I've heard Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur this year would cure insomnia in many ways. Between him and Joe Barry, oh my God. Those two guys in the monotone, and then you throw Aaron Rodgers into that. You could never sit outside of their office with their door closed and hear any of them speak. You could never eavesdrop on any of those conversations. Mike says Rodgers was the one that misread the interception. That was terrible. Aaron has to take blame because it was 100% on him. No passion. Jason says, please, come on, people. Jordan Love is straight up trash. He's not trash. We just don't know what he is. What they know behind closed doors. Let me talk about this for a second. What they know behind closed doors is Jordan Love is a good quarterback. He's grown in the system. He's aged nicely, but you don't know if he can win. And that's the difference. He can come out and look good. He had 2 good series in a Philadelphia game. Nobody's denying that. But I go back to the Kansas City game when he took the starters reps that week and looked terrible. Then throughout the entire second half of the season last year, for those 9 weeks, he took all the starters reps in practice, and Rodgers came in and played in the games. Because remember, Rodgers had the, quote, COVID toe. So he got all the starters reps. And then in the game at the end of the season against Detroit, when he knew he was going to play and be the guy in the second half, he didn't look good there either. And they ended up losing that game. And then this season, he comes out and it looks okay in the preseason. There was nothing great. There was nothing terrible. It was just very average, and then came out and looked pretty good in those 2 series against Philadelphia, and suddenly everybody wanted to put him in. My argument is that's fine, but 2 series does not a career make. And don't act like it does. He looked better. They know what they have behind closed doors. But the biggest question for Jordan Love is, from beginning point A to point B, can he win you a game? Is he the guy to go to win 2 minutes? Is he the guy to go to? And you don't know till he's in it. Okay, I'm not saying he can't. All I'm saying is you don't know. So to say that he's absolutely positively the way to go, I don't know if I'd give that take. I just have trepidation about just throwing him out there and saying he's the guy. Now, if you trade Rodgers away and you're going to kind of start things over and you're going to do certain things, yeah, no problem. That's going to be what you're going to do anyway. But you got to make a decision on this guy. 877-867-1670. Denny says, average, we ended up the season below average. They ended up the season below average in quite a few categories. Defensively, they started to rise towards the end of the season, but we all know for the majority of the season. And I said this coming into the game because there was a lot of people that asked about the defense. And I said, I can't unsee what they did in Detroit back during the regular season. I can't unsee the way the defense played against Philadelphia and giving up all of those third downs and the running third downs by Jalen Hurts where they just flat out couldn't tackle and there was 22 missed tackles. I couldn't see the way the offensive line got their ass whipped in the trenches by the Jets. I couldn't unsee the lackluster play that they had over in London after all the talk about being a work trip and such. And then right away, Aaron Rodgers says, no, I'd like to go to a few pubs, almost undercutting the words of his own head coach. And he looked like it. He looked like they would much rather be somewhere else rather than playing that football game. And then obviously he injured the thumb, and everything began to trickle out of hand from there. So there's a lot of layers to this season. It wasn't one thing specifically, but it was enough to make things go bad. And Watcher says it's going to be a long offseason. It is. It's going to be a long offseason. The one thing that I hope that is not long about this offseason is the decision and the correspondence via Rodgers, the team, notification that, he's coming back, he's committed and such. We were just sitting here talking off the air that I said, the one thing that I want is if I'm Brian, how would I handle the offseason? And I said, if I'm Brian Gutekunst, this is what I do. I say, hey, go away. You got a couple of weeks. Go do your thing. A couple of weeks, maybe a month. Go do your thing. But then I'm going to come out and see you. And then you drive out or you fly out or you take a boat, whatever it is you need to do, whatever rivers you need to go up and down, whatever beach you have to find him on, but you go out and talk to Aaron Rodgers and you say, are you committed? Yes or no? And if he says, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, I'd say, are you coming to the OTAs? Are you coming to the mini camps? And here's the reason why. Yeah, it's an off season, but you're getting paid $50 million a year, not a season, $50 million a year to be the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. If you're not all fully committed, then I'm trading you. So get ready, and then you go ahead and start shopping them around. But if you're committed, if you want to come in, if you want to work with Christian Watson, want to work with Romeo Doubs, want to work with Samori Toure, want to work with Matt LaFleur, want to sit down and be around an Algonquin round table of football to get this thing better and put this train back on the track for a run or two at it, then I'm all in. I'm 100% in and behind you. But if you're going to give me the hemming and hawing and you want to be on beaches and feeling 100 hands and you want to go to mountaintops and you want to take time off to go meet Dalai Lamas and all that that's fine. There's nobody that's going to argue with you about that. You've earned that right to do that. But when it comes to me paying you to be the leader of this team, I'm not paying you to be the leader for only 7 months or 6 months or 8 months. I'm paying you to be the leader for a year, for 2 years. That's what your contract states. It doesn't state the season. It states years. How many years is your contract? $50 million a year buys me a lot of your ass outside of the facility and outside of the season. And you need to come in and be a leader. And if you're not going to be a leader, and you're going to be this philosophical Zen master where all this, this manifestation of love and hugs and my ass, you go out and you beat somebody up. That's what we need you to do. And if you're not going to do it, then you don't need to be the quarterback in Green Bay anymore. And that's the way your career in Green Bay is going to end. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. 877-867-1670. 877-867-1670. If you want to find us, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. Let's go to Mike listening to us in Rockford. Mike, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. What's on your mind?
Well, Bill, let me tell you something. You stole the words out of my mouth. Before the game, my buddy was called me up. He lives up in Wisconsin. He's a Packer fan like me. He says, "Oh man, the Lions lost. This is great. They got nothing to play for." I said, "No," I said, "they are going to be spoiler, and they're going to pull. They have nothing to lose. They could play trick plays. They said they're going to go for it on fourth down." I said, "It's more dangerous to me than if so." I agree with what you said, but Bill, I know hindsight is 20/20, but going back 4 or 5 weeks ago, if I had known in the future, of course, we could all say this: if the Packers, if we knew they weren't going to make it, it would have been nice to see Jordan Love. I know you couldn't play him because they were still in it. And like Rodgers says, I'm playing till we're eliminated. So he played the last game, like he said. That was the right thing to do. But it's kind of a shame that we didn't. If they were going to get eliminated, it wasn't going to be 4 or 5 weeks ago. Because I would have really loved to see Jordan Love out there. Because at least that way, you know what we have, right? We know what we have going into next year. Because, he's not going to want to sit on the bench another year. Now, if Rodgers comes back, I cannot foresee Love being here, and then you're going to have to draft a quarterback probably in this spring's draft. I'll hang up and listen, but what do you think about that? And I got to also say one other thing, though. I'm disgusted with the coaches Everybody says, "Oh, Joe Barry," but like I said, Matt LaFleur has been riding the coattails of Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he's got this great record, the great record in December. No, Aaron Rodgers has the great record. The Packers weren't winning because of Matt LaFleur. They were winning because of Aaron Rodgers. And now when Rodgers screws up and they lose, Mr. LaFleur don't look so good. So I'll hang up and listen to what you say, Bill.
All right, buddy.
Thanks for taking my call.
I'll say this about Matt LaFleur. I don't know what the correlation or what the percentage of blame goes, but the play calling this year at times, I would give him credit. And I'd say, man, spot on. Get him under center. He's one of the best play action quarterbacks in the league. Do more of it, more movement, more motion and such. And then all of a sudden it became shotgun left, shotgun right, 3rd and 2. So might as well go 5 wide. It looked like Mike McCarthy's, play calling. Jason says you can't just trade him. He has, no, he doesn't have a no trade clause, Jason. He's only got a certain say in it, but he doesn't have a specific no trade clause, just an FYI. Just so you know, we went through this a couple of months ago when people got into that discussion. There's not a specific clause in there as far as we know. I don't know if it was Rodgers wanting to do certain things or they were keeping him out from under center because of the thumb, which I would assume a little bit had to do with it, but it just, the play calling was very predictable, especially when you get inside the red zone where they continued to stall on almost a regular basis here towards the end of the season. The offense was the biggest concern coming in. I didn't have a lot of concern with the defense because if the offense gets up a couple of scores, that defense is going to win you games. We saw it happen last week. You get up a couple of scores, it is what it is. 877-867-1670. You want to find us, do so. Let's do this. We're going to step out. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Matt LaFleur. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers at the podium. We're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers as well. Got a lot to get to. We also got Brandon from the north side of Milwaukee. We got Cody. We got Peter. We got all kinds of people on hold. Stay tuned. We are broadcasting live in Green Bay at the Green Bay House, as a matter of fact. They do a lot of charitable work. They raised about $9,000 last week for Sierra Delta, which does a lot for service animals, for veterans that are physically in need of service animals. So they do a lot of stuff. They raised a lot of money here. We thought we'd come back this week. So a lot of good stuff going on over here at the Green Bay House. And who knows, maybe this is going to become some kind of a home here next year for us before it's all said and done. But and everybody over in the Bud Light live stream, and we had at one point thousands of people watching, and a whole lot more than that as of right now. But thanks to everybody for watching over in the Bud Light live stream. Stay tuned. We got more coming up, phone calls, more of your tweets, emails, and over in the Bud Light live stream as well. We'll be back after this.
This is the Green and Gold postgame show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
A few more times this year, the Green and Gold postgame show presented by Bud Light. They've been with us now 22 years. Thanks to Bud Light for being a part of the program and another season of covering the Green Bay Packers. We certainly appreciate it. Bud Light, again, the official beer sponsor of the Green and Gold postgame show. Packers knocked off by the Detroit Lions in somewhat sad fashion, but they get knocked off 20-16 at Lambeau Field. Their season comes to an end. The Lions go to 9-8. The Packers finish the season at 8-9. They finish a game behind the Lions, which means they are third place in the NFC North. The only team worse than them was the horrific Chicago Bears, who just had an absolutely positively awful season. So Packers have a lot of work to do if they're going to try to climb back into this thing. Let's get a couple of phone calls before we get to Matt LaFleur. Let's do this. Let's go to Brandon, listening from the north side, from Milwaukee's north side. Brandon, how you doing, man? Brandon, you there? Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Bill, can you hear me?
I got you.
Oh, okay. I just got a quick question. Love the show, by the way. Long-time listener.
Thank you.
But I was just wondering, why every time when Aaron Rodgers is, like, under pressure and the game is on the line, why does it seem like he just likes to heave the ball up just like he did last year against the 49ers and it got picked? And he did the same thing tonight, and it got picked, and it basically cost the game. Do you think that if Jordan Love was in the game, do you think that he would have done the same thing? And I'll listen to your comments off the air.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for listening for a long time. I've certainly appreciated it. I don't think so. Veterans do things out of veteran experience, and people, players that have not played a lot do kind of what they're told, and they try to make things work in a particular way. Do I think that he wouldn't have thrown an interception? No, I couldn't say. But I don't think he just wails it up to wail it up. But we've seen rookie quarterbacks this year that have made some really boneheaded plays where they just thought, well, I'm just going to throw it up and let my guy go make a play, and it's nowhere near the receiver, or the receiver doesn't have the ability to come back and make a play, much like we saw tonight, and it ends up getting picked. Do I think that Jordan Love wouldn't have thrown an interception tonight? That I can't say. But in that particular play, with the game on the line, most young quarterbacks aren't going to just wail it to wail it. You know what I mean? Because they're doing everything they can to execute the play that is called. And sometimes you freelance, you do your own thing. Everybody knows that. But I think Rodgers, sometimes he's, again, the smartest guy in the room, and he knows what everybody's supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be and where he wants them to be, and they're supposed to be on his same wavelength. We saw that with Alan Lazard. We saw that with go back to the Chicago game where Randall Cobb was wide open, and Rodgers threw it downfield, and it was a terrible overthrow. And you come to find out that Cobb and Rodgers have this thing that if there's wide open field downfield or in front of you, you take off. Well, Cobb stopped because the defender was only about 10 yards behind him. He wanted to give Rodgers a big window to throw into, and Rodgers just completely overthrew him because Rodgers wanted him to do something else. The same thing with Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard ran a route, started out as the slot. Christian Watson, I think it was Christian Watson, went deep, drew the coverage back, and then the zone opened up. Lazard saw the zone, wide open, sat in the zone, turned around, and waited for the football. Well, Rodgers saw the wide open field down ahead of him and threw it down there, and ultimately threw a pick because he threw it where he wanted Lazard to be, rather than Lazard doing exactly what it is you're supposed to do as a wide receiver. And that is run off the coverage, get to the zone, and as soon as you see the opening in the zone, you sit, you plant, and you wait. And Rodgers overthrew him. So it's hard to say. I mean, maybe Jordan Love makes that throw because he throws it to the open zone. But then again, Rodgers has been doing it so long and expects certain things from other players that he has a different level of playing consciousness, I guess, for lack of a better term. So to say that, I don't know, but I do know one thing, that there has to be a full commitment from everybody to be back in. This was rather interesting, and I want to get to this email real quick. This is from our buddy Dave. He said, "Hey, Bill, maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago, you said something to the effect of the front office needs to tell Aaron that they're not bringing, quote, his buddies back any longer, and he's not going to dictate what they do. He's a player. He needs to play. That will be a good start this offseason." I did say that, but I said it in a different way. I didn't say that you're a player, sit down, shut up. What I said was exactly what I'm saying to you now, and that is if I'm Brian Gutekunst, and I'm going to be the general manager with Matt LaFleur, I'm going to tell Matt LaFleur I'm going to handle this. And because you got to wrap your arms around this thing. And you got to go to Aaron and say, you take a little time, you do what you need to do, we're going to support you. But I want to let you know, we are going to talk, and we are going to make some decisions here in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it may be. And then you go and see him. You don't have him come to you. You go and see him. You sit down. You have a very frank, a very honest, and as he always says, he wants to be treated like a person. He wants to be treated in consideration and such. So you go there and you say, this is what I'm doing. And I'm going to ask you. And if he says he's coming back, then great. Say, this is what I want from you. And I want to know if you're all in. Are you in? Are you coming back? Are you going to be a leader? I'm paying you for the entire office. I'm paying you $50 million. Okay? That doesn't just buy me the regular season. I'm paying you for everything. So are you coming back? You're going to help mentor these guys. You're going to help get them on the same page, spend some time with them, get to know them, get to know their idiosyncrasies, some things that they're good at, some things that they're not. These are the guys you keep turning around and yelling at, not to be, because they're not on the same page with you. Well, damn it, if you're going to, the high tide raises all ships, but you got to go down and get under the boat to raise the boat. So this is what I would tell him to do. And if he doesn't want to do it and he feels like he doesn't have to, he can let Cobby coach him up. And then I'm going to be like, you know what? It has been a great career. We thank you for everything you've done. Treat him like a complete, the special Hall of Famer that he is, and say, but we are going to trade you away because we need commitment. Because if we're going to put this kind of money and resources and effort into putting all of this into one boat for a year or two, possibly at the sacrifice of years down the road, I need you. And if he doesn't want to commit to that, then he's the one that's kind of forcing your hand. And that's all you got to do, you know? And then in the other sense, I also think that I'm going to have a conversation with Matt LaFleur and say, Matt, I don't know where your cojones went, but you better get them back because this ain't going to cut it. Not in Green Bay, it's not. So if Rodgers is coming back, you guys better own this. And I don't want to see you kowtowing. I don't want to see you monotone. I don't want to see you, speaking softly and all your cliches. You're going to look at the tape, and that's unacceptable. The only reason it's unacceptable is because you didn't do it. So I don't want to hear it anymore. It's all excuses. It's all crap. It's all cliche. Things have to change. 877-867-1670, 877-1670. Hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. Again, 877-867-1670. Let's go to Cody. Cody, welcome to the program and the Green and Gold Postgame Show.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, Cody. What's up?
So, yeah, just kind of, speculation about everything now with Rodgers. Everything's up in the air right now. Just kind of looking at how he exited the field, you kind of have a sense or a feeling that he kind of knows this might be his last time in Lambeau. Mm-hmm. He was with Cobb and that. Cobb's been best friend with him for how long now? But you just got the sense that how he was looking, how he's reacting when he was walking out of the tunnel. One thing I noticed was one of the camera people, I know it's a sensitive time in that for him after a big loss like this, but he kind of shoved one of the camera people away from him, kind of said, stay behind me. So, just a little speculation. Do we go to Jordan Love now? Because eventually you're going to have to face the inevitable that you're going to have to move on from Rodgers, whether it's this year or it's next year. But if you move away, you don't move away this year, you're possibly losing Jordan Love, which you traded up to get him. Let's try him out. Let's see what he looks like. That's kind of my first comment. Second comment is, the Packers just this season, I don't really remember a game that Besides maybe the Vikings game, I don't really know a game that they really played a full 4 quarters. It was tough to see them play a full 4 quarters throughout the entire year. What are your thoughts?
I 100% agree. They never played a full game all season long. Not even in the Vikings game. I mean, the defense did, but the offense didn't. They didn't fire on all cylinders. The offense had. I mean, remember the offense only put up 20 points last week. You know, I mean, now granted, they had a couple of opportunities because the defense took one back for a score and then gave the ball right back to the Vikings. And same thing with special teams. But the defense only scored 20 points last week, and their offense stalled a couple of times. So I don't think they played a full game. I think that was as close to a full game as they could have played. But, you know, again, I agree with you. Not one time this season. Appreciate the phone call, too, by the way. Not one time this season did they play a full game. 100% agree. I know it's taking a little bit longer tonight because this is just a different kind of end of the season. This is a little bit longer night, so we're going to wait for Mike Clemens here in a little bit. Rodgers spoke. LaFleur spoke. We're going to hope to get some of that on coming up here in a little bit. Stay tuned. Going to take a quick break, come back, and whatever comes. 20-16, the Packers get knocked off by the Detroit Lions. You can keep hitting us up, 877-867-1670. Find us on Twitter, @Bill_Michaels. You can find us over on the YouTube channel, on Twitch TV. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on many different platforms. The Real Bill Michaels over on Instagram. Plenty of ways to track us down. 20-16 is the final. We've got more right after this.
This is the Green and Gold postgame show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Back to the program. Good to have you. The Packers get knocked off by the Detroit Lions 20-16. And the Packers season now comes to an end. I want to do this. I want to get to this real quick because we're not going to have a ton of time. But Matt LaFleur just finished speaking shortly, just a short while ago. And I want to at least hear part of this. This is Matt LaFleur talking to the media just after the game. Let's take a listen.
To get it done and in that fashion is extremely disappointed. I do commend our locker room and the guys for their ability to overcome adversity throughout the course of the season. But I think ultimately we dug ourselves in too big of a hole. And then the margin for error in this league is so small. And if you don't capitalize on opportunities and you make mistakes, then you're going to lose, especially against quality football teams. You got to give Detroit a ton of credit. They came in here and they beat us tonight. So certainly, like I said, extremely disappointed. But we got to. It's going to be a big offseason for us, obviously, to make sure that we all improve. We all got to look inward and figure out what it is we got to do to get better, because I know the expectations here are very high, and they should be. And just really disappointed right now.
Had a lot going for you on the stretch here. What do you think happened tonight?
I just didn't take advantage of opportunities to be able to move the ball in the first half and 9 points or whatever it was, and basically had 2 turnovers. On the fourth down, we didn't convert, and put our defense in a really tough situation right there, and they were able to hold them to 3, and then also had a fumble, and you can't do those types of things in this type of game.
Matt, Aaron's interceptions have been so low the previous 3 years. Why do you think they spiked this year, and what did you see on the ones tonight?
Yeah, I don't know. I got to go back and look at it. Certainly, look at some of the things that we're trying to do. I know the last one there, I think we busted a protection. He had a guy right in his face, and I think he was trying to give Christian a shot at it. And they came down with the pick.
Is it a given in your mind that he's back with you next year, or do you guys have a lot of thinking to do there?
Oh, I think that's yeah. I mean, in my mind, absolutely. But I think ultimately he's going to, decide that.
There was lots of composure at times. Douglas had a personal foul at the end of the first half. Boy's situation toward the end of the game. What do you think was there? Were they feeling a little more pressure? What do you think was kind of causing some of those?
I don't know, but we that is unacceptable. I've got a much higher standard for our players than to do silly things like that. I mean, we've had a guy get ejected twice. I don't think I've ever seen that in my career. And we got to be much more mentally tough. Anytime our guys commit personal fouls, I take that very personally. And that's always a reflection of myself and the standards that we set for these players. And, we got to be better and we got to learn from that because that is unacceptable.
Why go for it in your own territory so early in the game? High-scoring game, is that what you're thinking?
Oh, it's 4th and a half yard. I think, not that we ever rely on analytics, but if you look at anything, they're going to tell you to go for it in that situation. We thought we had a look, obviously didn't. They played the heck out of the play, and we ended up costing us.
On air, this might sound like a preposterous question, but are you convinced that he's the guy to get you back where you want him? I mean, he didn't have the best year. He's come up short in the 49ers last year in this game.
Yeah, I look at everything year to year. So certainly I think there was a lot of growing pains that took place throughout the course of the season, and I thought we improved and got better, and I thought the rapport with everybody got better. We all have this vision of, I mean, you're talking about one of the best to ever do it. And we all have this vision of what it's supposed to look like each and every week. And I think anytime you got some young players or you got new players or there's some transition, like it does take time. And certainly we got to ultimately, what I got to do, what our staff has to do is we got to do a better job for our guys, put them in a better position so that learning curve is expedited and that we can maintain that high level of play that we're so accustomed to seeing from him.
I guess I understand that part of it. This is, you guys have been at it for 6 months as a start training camp, and that seems like it's a lot of time to get some of those new guy things sorted out.
No, I think anytime that you have that, when you have young players, it's a little bit of a roller coaster, and there's a lot of learning involved along the way. And that's just, you can call it what you want to call it, but that's reality. I mean, you see it throughout the course, throughout many teams throughout the league. I know in my past experiences, anywhere I've been, there is a transition there.
So, Matt, are you saying you've not seen any drop-off in this play this season?
Listen, I think every year is a little bit different in regards to there was plenty of mistakes. I think many times, and I've said this throughout my tenure here, the quarterback's going to take the brunt of the blame when you don't have success, and a lot of the other time when you do have success, they're going to get too much of that praise. It takes everybody on that field, and ultimately, all 11 that were out there throughout the course of the season, and then our staff, I think we got to collectively got to do a better job, period.
Matt, it feels like this is annual that you're standing here answering questions about, do you expect Aaron to be back? This feels like something you go through every year now. Are you, this year right now, any more confident, less confident than you have been in years past in the same situation? Lead you to believe it'll be one way or the other?
No, there's nothing that I can sit here and tell you right now definitively that how I feel in terms of what the future holds.
Matt, with the way Christian came on kind of later in the season, does that validate or vindicate your guys' decision to not make any moves by adding any receivers to that room? And do you think that this is what it is going forward?
No, I thought we felt confident with our receiving room, with our receiving core. Not only Christian, but Rome. There were a lot of great moments with him. Obviously, Allen's been a steady veteran for us. Randall. I think Samori is a young guy that's come on and shown flashes. So I thought we felt ultimately, collectively, with that group, we felt pretty comfortable with where we were.
You run the ball well all season. What went wrong tonight?
We didn't block movement very well.
Matt, when you talk about Aaron being one of the best to ever do it, does that in any way complicate the evaluation process that you make on each player each year, each season?
I don't think so.
First and goal at the 5, you had some trouble with the first and goals. What'd you think went wrong down there?
Didn't block very well. We tried 2 runs and had, I think, a yard apiece maybe. That puts you in a tough spot. The third down was well covered. You sit there and you game plan and you think something's going to come open and it doesn't. And we went off schedule and It looked like there was a little bit of miscommunication there in terms of when it does go off schedule. That's a lot of feel for the players involved, and I never want to put those guys in that situation. But the initial concept we called was gloved.
There you go. That was Matt LaFleur talking to the media after the game, and not a lot of satisfactory answers there, I guess. We can kind of dissect it a little bit when we come back. Also, Mike Clemens, when we come back, we'll talk with Mike, who is actually over in Lambeau Field, coming out of the locker room as we speak. Stay tuned. One more segment to go before we call it a season ourselves. The Packers get knocked off by the Detroit Lions. 20-16, the season comes to an end. We've got more of the Green and Gold Postgame Show presented by Bud Light coming up next.
This is the Green and Gold Postgame Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Glad to have you. Kind of the apropos song of the final countdown as of the final segment of the Green and Gold Postgame Show for the 2022-2023 season now culminates. Let's go over to Lambeau Field. Our guy, Mike Clemens, standing by. Michael, first of all, it's been a hell of a year, and we didn't think we'd be to this point anyway, but, man, what a disappointing end to this season and the way they went out.
At halftime, Bill, I tweeted out, a week ago at this time, we were up against the NFC North champions, the Packers were, 27-3. But the difference was you had 7 points from a kick return from Keyshawn Nixon. You had 7 points from a pick six from Darnell Savage. So that's 14 points. And tonight it was like 9-6. And so once again, in this stretch, the offense is kind of exposed. And even Aaron Rodgers said, you know, we didn't get that kick tonight from special teams or our defense, and it took us too long to get offense going, particularly breakdowns on third down in the red zone. On the other side, the Lions were 1-6. Then they beat you 15-9 at Ford Field, and then they went 7-2 coming in tonight. The Lions finished with a winning record of 9-8, but they're not going to the playoffs either because of the Seattle win. And so Dan Campbell, a guy who we were all laughing at when he took over the job, and you know his lines about breaking kneecaps and all that. This guy has got an exciting team going into next season. And here's what Dan Campbell said after the win and his team's effort against Green Bay.
They played their ass off. They were ready for this game, and you know they wanted to prove something, and they did that. And this team has just hung in there all year long. I said it. It's a special group, and the hard part of this is that it's over for this season because it is a special group, you know. And but hey, that's if you got to go down that one, if it's the last one for the season, then man, what better way to go out than that for 2022?
You know, Mike, Jared Goff played a pretty good game, didn't turn the ball over. And in addition to that, they did some scoreboard watching. And you know, it was interesting because they had the game of the Seahawks up on the big screen inside Lambeau Field as if to say, look, you're going to have nothing to play for. And I kept saying, I don't think it matters to this group. I think they're going to go out because they felt, one, disrespected by some of the comments of Aaron Rodgers. Two, is the first time in a long time they're going to be over 500. And just Dan Campbell, he's got that influence, and they wanted to beat the Green Bay Packers and knock the Packers out of the postseason. They had a lot of reasons to come in and play hard.
Fans heard the Lions talking about Aaron Rodgers' comments, and no one seemed here to remember that after the Packers lost in Detroit, after the game, Aaron said, you know, we can't be losing to a team like that.
Right.
That's what he put out there. Well, guess what? Dan Campbell turned that into bulletin board material, and he drilled it and drilled it and drilled it into this team. So even though that their season was technically over with when they saw the Seahawks beat the Rams, Jared Goff was asked, did he have any concern that his teammates would lose their edge going into the game tonight?
Yeah, no, I don't think that was ever the concern for us. We've been playing with an edge since we were 1-6, and felt, you know, everyone said our season was over, and we traded TJ, and everyone wrote that, you know, we're mailing it in, and I love TJ. He's going to do fantastic in Minnesota, but you know, there's a lot of things said throughout the year that.
You know, Mike, it was also Jamal Williams, you know, coming back to Lambeau Field. Obviously, he was feeling good about this team coming in. He kind of wanted to have a good showing back here again after being, you know, not necessarily let go. It's just they just didn't want to pay him. So they said, go ahead and find another deal. And he did. And he found a home over in Detroit.
Yeah, and after that 1-6 start, he had a hell of a season. He got his first 1,000-yard season as an NFL running back in his sixth year. He tied a Barry Sanders touchdown record. He's been leading the league in touchdowns. Got it to 16 tonight. And we talked to Jamal, and he said that this game for him was more than revenge against playing his old team, the Packers, that this was an emotional game for him personally.
Like, the only thing I can really think about is, like, family members that passed away, and I really just dedicated this game for them. Like, I've had a lot of stuff happen to me in my life lately. Just my dad and my great-grandfather passing away. So it's just been a lot, and my heart's been heavy for a little bit. But, you know, I've always tried to just smile and make sure I'm there for my team and being a great teammate. So, and I'm grateful for them for just being my brothers and just understanding, you know, what I've been through. I try to keep it quiet, not put my business out there like that, but I just had to make sure I let them know, you know, this game was very special to me. I'm just grateful for my teammates for how they came out, just kept playing, fighting, and I'm just grateful to be on part of this team.
Now, Mike, here we go, because the offseason now begins. The dance with Aaron Rodgers now begins. I can hear, I think it's the Clash in my head, the song Should I Stay or Should I Go, starting to play in my head. So here we go, man.
Exactly. So tonight I got the binoculars on. Final gun. The teams come across to the middle of the field, shake hands. Aaron Rodgers walks off the field with Randall Cobb arm in arm, and a report from our friend Larry down the sideline said there was tears in the eyes. Maybe it's for sure it's the last game for Randall Cobb. He's sort of been hinting at that. I get to the elevators from the press box. The Lions coaching staff gets in the visitors' elevator, and one of the guys shouts out, yeah, you can't lose to a team like that 3 times, right?
Yeah.
So he's throwing back the Rodgers line. The Packers coaching staff could hear it across the hallway in their elevator, and one guy said, yeah, real classy. I tweeted this out. And then the Lions staff replied, well, that's what your quarterback said, and the doors closed. Like,
right.
Oh, man. And then Aaron Rodgers, here he is, 15 years later, 15 years after Favre, started kind of asking those Shakespearean questions. Should I stay or should I go?
Do I feel like I have anything left to prove to myself? Do I want to go back and gear up for another grind? Or is it time? Is it time to step away? Is it time for another voice to be leading this team? I think I need to get away and contemplate those things. And those are real to me. And I'm, I have a lot of pride in what I've accomplished in this league, but also realist. And I understand where we're at as a team. We're a young team. There could be some changes with some of the older guys. And, it could be time to step away.
Wow. That sounds about as emphatic as I've heard him in a long time as to, talking about the end of his career. And we're not talking about going to the team, but we're talking about stepping away from football.
Pete Doherty asked him point blank, you've got a pretty big contract waiting for you to come back. And he said, it's not about the money. Money is energy. And he left it at that. And then at the very end of a 15, 20-minute press conference, Bill Huber, Sports Illustrated, asked Aaron Rodgers, if you decide to retire, what are you going to miss about this place, Aaron?
I'm going to miss your questions, Bill. And Mike Clemens taking 10 seconds to do a lead up. And Pete angling for something. And Bob writing stories about my personal life. You've been good lately, though. And Jason bringing it back home with something that's kind of heavy hitting. Stephanie Sutton coming out of left field. Good question. I miss the guys. I miss the fans.
Interesting stuff. Mike, do you think he comes back?
I think he's going to think about it really long and hard. I think he thinks that his case for bringing back guys like maybe Mason Crosby, Randall Cobb, maybe Mercedes Lewis, that's probably out the door. I think he looks at a young team from the Detroit Lions running all over the field, and he's got to feel old.
Yeah.
He's got to feel old. And I think he's got to wonder, do I really want to try and come? I don't want to come back for another year of embarrassment. How much work is it going to take for me at 39 or 40 to get these guys back to the next level or to a Super Bowl? Do we have enough, powder in the cannon to do that? Or do I just step away and let these guys play a different style of football with Jordan Love?
The only thing that I have an issue with, and it's something you said early, is when he said, well, money is energy. Well, if that's the case, then why the hell did you take it all? That would be my argument to this, is that there's a lot of things that have to happen for this team to be financially stable moving forward. And if he leaves, they're not financially stable for another year. So
if you had a sitcom on NBC,
yeah,
and you were number one, they'd pay you $50 million. That game tonight was pushed up to primetime on NBC because Aaron Rodgers is a ratings draw.
Right.
And he doesn't care if it comes to the Packers or the league. He wanted to get paid.
Yep, no doubt about it. Good stuff. Mike, we will talk again tomorrow, pal.
Talk to you then, Bill.
Appreciate it, bud. There you go. There you go. That's the way it ends. Man, it's been great. Thanks to Connor. Connor, for producing the program all season long. Terrific job. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks to Evo that's been here, our producer Ben, Mike Clemens. Thanks to our sponsor, Bud Light, our key sponsor. One more time before a crowd of 78,191, the Packers season comes to an end at Lambeau Field. It was the Lions 20, the Packers 16. We'll talk about it again tomorrow. Until then.